I guess there are many types of cheating. It's like cheating on a test, cheating on a... But the very fact that some people are here and other people are not is a kind of cheating. You've rigged the system in a certain way to provide advantages to yourself to come to this college. Whereas most people who are poor, oppressed, minorities, they couldn't possibly afford... How much is the tuition here? They couldn't possibly afford this place.
I think that's a good point, but I guess I don't really see...
Is it enough of a good point for you to move to slightly disagree?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of ways that we could like restructure the system to make it so that everybody's starting at a little more equal footing, but that we don't necessarily have to like give people opportunities to cheat. And I know that...
Like reparations, you mean? Okay, sir. What's your name?
Warren Smith.
And where are we today?
Williams College.
A fine institution. And what is your name, young lady?
Wendy.
And what is your major?
Psychology and sociology.
Psychology and sociology. And what is your major?
Math and bio.
Oh my God, that's so intimidating to me. And what is your major?
Chemistry.
What's 7 + 5?
12.
Okay, she's legit. What's the chemical for salt?
Sodium chloride.
He's legit. Okay, so now that we've established that, we're going to do a new claim. The more historically marginalized groups you are a part of, the more it is okay for you to cheat. The more historically don't move yet. The more historically marginalized groups you're a part of, the more okay it is for you to cheat. Move. So you know this is legit, you can look too. Okay, what do you want, heads or tails?
Tails.
Hey Siri, flip a coin. Heads. Okay, so you lost, you won, so you have a choice. Okay. You can send her to the strongly agree, or you can go to the strongly agree.
Oof. I don't know if I can argue this one. I'll try.
Well, then send her. Then send her if you don't want.
Would you mind doing it? Would you be up for it? I don't want you to have to do it if you don't want. If she doesn't.
Well, she lost the game. I mean, what can you say? She lost a fair coin toss. Listen, if you don't do that for a fair coin toss, then why are you on that line, right?
I think you could do better than me on this. I don't think I can do it.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so you're going to make the best argument that you can for strongly agree for the more... Now, I know you don't believe this, just to be clear. The more historically marginalized groups you're a part of, the more it is for you okay to cheat. You guys are going to make the best arguments that you can against that. What is the best argument that you have against that?
Is this explaining why I'm in disagree?
Why are you in disagree? What is the best argument that you have? Why do you disagree that the more historically marginalized groups you're a part of, the more it is okay for you to cheat?
I think there's important distinctions to be made between marginalized groups and non-marginalized groups, but saying, you know, the more okay it is for you to cheat is not one of the gradations that I would make. I think, you know, really it's not okay to cheat at all. And so I think the more historically marginalized groups you are a part of, that doesn't really weigh into the equation for me.
But isn't the fact that white men who are heterosexual got here in the first place a part of a legacy of cheating?
That's 100% true, and I think I would agree with that, except...
So you cheated to get here?
I mean, I wouldn't say that necessarily I cheated to get here, but there were 100% power structures that allowed me to get here where other people wouldn't have had the opportunity. And if you want to call that cheating, I don't know, maybe I would disagree with you, but I can see where you're coming from. I think, though, when it comes down to like how I picture cheating, it's more of like an active choice versus like when you think about like the passive way it's structured. And so I would say it's not okay to like actively cheat.
Okay. Tell her your best argument for why you're on the disagree. Tell her.
Well, I just don't think it's okay to cheat.
Why not?
Because...
Everybody cheats all the time.
Okay, then I don't think it matters your background, whether it's okay that you're cheating or not.
Oh, so your background is... It doesn't matter what your background is?
No. If you're cheating.
Okay. Okay, sir. What is your argument for why you're there?
Because everybody should be treated equal, regardless of race, skin color, background, immutable characteristics, and it's no one should be allowed to cheat, so they should be applied equally.
Okay, what do you think? And again, I know you're not there. Tell them, what do you think someone would argue who's there? What's the best argument they would have?
I think you said it here. When a system started in an unfair way, it is not fair to expect other people to play by those rules because the rules were not fair to begin with.
Anybody want to respond to that?
I could take that.
Okay.
I think it's a good point that, how can you expect everybody to play the same when not everybody is starting in the same place? I guess maybe I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around like what it means to cheat. I think
Well, let's define that. What do you mean to cheat?
when I think about cheating, I assume we're talking about like maybe like cheating on a test or like cheating, I don't know, some sort of way to get ahead that other people don't have the opportunity to have. Is that about right?
I guess there are many types of cheating. It's like cheating on a test, cheating on a... But the very fact that some people are here and other people are not is a kind of cheating. You've rigged the system in a certain way to provide advantages to yourself to come to this college. Whereas most people who are poor, oppressed, minorities, they couldn't possibly afford... How much is the tuition here? They couldn't possibly afford this place.
I think that's a good point, but I guess I don't really see...
Is it enough of a good point for you to move to slightly disagree?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of ways that we could like restructure the system to make it so that everybody's starting at a little more equal footing, but that we don't necessarily have to like give people opportunities to cheat. And I know that
Like reparations, you mean?
I'm not necessarily talking about reparations. I'm more talking about something like, affirmative action in college admissions. If you want to argue that that's reparations, I think that's a little bit of a tricky argument to make, but it's, there are things we can do to our system that give people opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have.
All right, let's do this claim. People in historically marginalized groups deserve compensation. Move. People in historically marginalized groups deserve compensation. Move. People in historically marginalized groups deserve compensation. Okay, why do you strongly disagree, sir?
I understand the nobility of the sentiment, but how do we measure that? Where does that stop?
So it's a measurement issue for you. Like, what would that look like, you mean?
Yeah, are we talking about based off of people's ancestry? And my response to that would be like, okay, what about if my Irish grandfather came here with absolutely nothing? Is this socioeconomic? Is this based on skin color?
Okay. People in historically marginalized groups deserve compensation. You agree?
I do.
Tell him why.
And actually, speaking to the measurement issues, of course, we can't measure everything, but I don't think that's a reason not to do it. There are definitely certain metrics. For example, we know, of course, no, those are not exact numbers, but we know, for example, the contribution of slavery to America. We know how much money was taken from Africa during colonization. We have numbers. They're not exact, but we have numbers. And I think it's not even a nobility of the sentiment. I think it's actually a duty. And it's not like doing it out of the kindness of your heart.
A duty.
It is a duty.
Okay.
I think if you steal something, returning it is not because you're noble. It's because it's what you're supposed to do.
Okay, let's do this. Let's tack on the claim. So we just did people in historically marginalized groups deserve compensation. Cheating is a good form of compensation. Move. Disagree. Okay, new claim. There should be different penalties based upon one's racial ancestry for cheaters. Move.
Do you have to move or can you stay in the
You can complete this, no obligation to move. So why aren't you on the strongly disagree?
I mean, I think that your background does factor in some ways to how you feel and how you act. And if you're from a historically marginalized group, you may be more inclined, perhaps you have more anger towards the systems in place, and that gives you a little bit of leeway, but I still think that cheating is wrong.
Do you believe it gives you a little more leeway?
I think it's when I think about like punishment versus like taking action to like, you know, positively affirm something. I think those things are really different, and punishment is something that has to be a lot more customized and appropriate to the situation. So like, for example, if you have somebody who's from a low-income background and they're caught cheating, is kicking them out of school the right thing to do when...
Well, punishment is different, all right?
Well, you were talking about punishment, weren't you?
Okay, all right, I'm trying to track this. Let's do this one. Grades are an oppressive system. Move. Grades are an oppressive system. Grades are an oppressive system. You staying there?
I'm trying to think.
You think. There's no, take your time. You staying there? You're staying there. Okay, so just remember where you are. Agree, slightly agree, disagree, strongly agree. Cheating is a legitimate way to resist oppressive systems. Cheating is a legitimate way to resist oppressive systems. Move. Explain.
I still believe that cheating is wrong. But I also understand that people try to deal with being oppressed in different ways. I don't think cheating is the best way to do it, but I can see why somebody would try it. I'm thinking, let's say somebody who goes to a country, doesn't speak the language, the school maybe has the means to like help that person out, but they don't do it. And if the student has a chance to cheat, to get ahead, like they know they're intelligent, they're just not, like they can't speak the language, I can see why that student would cheat if I were the teacher.
Okay.
I don't know what I would do.
Okay.
I would probably punish, but maybe not harshly. I would look at more why the person cheated.
Okay, I'm a little surprised. You moved to the agree and you were staunchly. So why do you think cheating is a legitimate way to resist oppressive systems?
If you're living under a legitimately oppressive system, let's say we're in World War II, and I'm a German, and the Nazis have taken over Germany. I would cheat. In that case, I would do everything I could to take on an oppressive system. Do I think we live in an oppressive system? No.
Systemic racism is real. Move. Okay, give him one example of systemic racism that exists now, let's say in a legal context.
I don't know.
You're on the strongly agree, so
I can't think of a concrete example
then how do you know it's real?
because it feels real.
Are you ever mistaken about any of your feelings?
Yes.
Is the
I'm
fact,
not saying I'm right.
but you must be saying you're right because you're on strongly disagree, or you'd be on the neutral.
I can't think of a concrete example where I've experienced systemic racism.
What about just as a society as a whole?
I mean, I think people have prejudices.
But systemic racism. Systems.
But the systems are built by people.
Okay. You're on the disagree, is that correct?
Correct.
How do you reconcile the fact that you're on the disagree with the fact that Asian Americans need higher test scores to get into elite universities?
I don't think they do need higher test
They
scores,
do.
do they?
They do need Asian Americans need higher test scores and higher grades. Would that not be an example, accepting if that's true by fiat, and that lost in a case with Harvard, would that not be an example of systemic racism if it were true?
Didn't you just say it lost? And
No, the Harvard lost.
so the Supreme Court overruled it. So that would be evidence that it's not systemic.
Well, it'd be evidence until very recently that there was systemic racism against Asians.
Yeah, maybe I should adjust then. Maybe I should go to slightly disagree because you're right. There are I think affirmative action, there's forms of treating people differently based on their skin color. Happens often.
Okay, then how come you didn't move to the neutral?
Because it's not as prevalent. When people say systemic racism, I disagree with that description. I do not think we're systemically racist. That's more of on an individual basis, and I would try and call that
And
out
not
on
a
an
systems basis.
Correct. But you make a good point about emissions.
Can you give an example of systemic racism?
Yeah, the best example for me is the 13th Amendment.
Okay.
That says that slavery is illegal except in case of punishment. And at the same time, the people that are most likely to get punished are people of color.
Okay, we have to wrap it up because we're at 3 minutes. Do you have any final comments?
This made me think a lot about my views and why I think them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about hard things.
Cool.
I liked being forced to defend what I didn't believe in.
Well, you have final comments?
Yeah, it was really interesting hearing your thinking. I'm glad that this whole thing was beneficial.
Cool, let's just do this. I want to just return to this. The more historically marginalized groups you're a part of, the more it is okay for you to cheat. Move. Awesome, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's a wrap. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. This falls under the umbrella of my nonprofit, National Progress Alliance. Your generous donations keep us going and help fuel content like this. We truly appreciate your support. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one.